Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Fly With Us podcast. This podcast is bringing the art of conversation, self-love, self-care, mental health care and protection, life lessons, love lessons, and everything in between. Today, we're going to continue our hip-hop series talking about ageism in hip-hop. This is sure to be a good one. We got some different guests going to pop in and out on us. I'm your girl, Lady Bounce.
And I am Picket Fence. Today's Mindfulness Minute. One point of view among many. I acknowledge that I do not have the complete understanding of my own life or my contributions to society. Lacking complete knowledge, I have mercy on myself for my own failings. I admit the blind spots in my vision and open myself to insight. Keep in mind that your perspective of your life is just that, one's perspective among many possible perspectives. You may not be able to see your own contributions to your workplace, your family clearly. Sometimes other people may be able to judge your gifts more accurately, especially bringing partly of your own vision to mind when you are chastising yourself for not working hard enough, for not earning enough money, for any other perceived shortfall. You simply don't have the full picture. Chances are that you make a larger difference in your own world than you think. Today, you may find yourself in a mode of self-criticism, reacting a litany of things that you have done wrong or tasks that you have not completed. Allow yourself to see the partially of your own point of view. The blind spot is your self-acknowledgement. Move from this place of self-judgment and self-condemnation to a place of agnosticism about your own motivations. Make room for insight, but don't try to force them into place. Word up.
Word up. So that fits perfectly with what we're talking about today, because there's been lots of criticism about ageism in hip hop. Most notably this week, 21 Savage decided to go at Nas and say that Nas isn't a what do you say?
Isn't relevant.
He just has a good fan base. It's like, yeah, he said he's irrelevant. So as two hip hop heads, first let's just weigh in on his comment. So who want to go first?
It's it's obviously absurd, that, what he said. There's no, I don't think that it's been pretty much from what I've read, like across the board, people think it's stupid. You know what I mean? Like people that are in his age group think it's, absurd. People that are in my age group, that are in your age group, everybody kind of is like, what is he talking about? And I think that it's like, that's like the danger of that Clubhouse app. Really, is like you're just talking. It's not the same as like posting a status or something like that, where you actually type it out and you read it before you hit send, and you have the opportunity to maybe get your point across in a better way. You know what I mean? It's just a bunch of people arguing over top of each other in there, and so you say something, and it's just like, oh, well, it's out there now, and you're a famous person, so everybody's gonna run with it. And you get some hysteria over something you didn't probably think was a big deal to say. I'm not sure what point he was trying to make, but I can't imagine that. I wouldn't think his intention was to go on there and like insult the man. You know what I mean? I think that he just maybe chose his words not very carefully.
Yeah, I think that's very possible. Very, very possible. But I've seen, like you said, a lot of backlash from even people in his age group and mine and yours. I think everybody's got some kind of backlash, especially people who are true fans of hip hop music. We've heard these last three albums, and it's like that doesn't even make sense when you hear him say something like that after listening to these last three albums. It's like you could tell that I saw your post where you said they're just getting better with this partnership, and if you're really into music, you can hear that clearly.
Yeah, he the guy's he's gonna do what KD 1, 2, and 3 live at Madison Square Garden. So like you don't get a solo show at Madison Square Garden without
No,
relevancy. You know what I mean?
no. Right.
It's the biggest arena in the country. You know what I mean? Like it's a
Right.
legendary thing. So he just toured the country with Busta Rhymes and Wu Tang, and you know he still headlines festivals, and you know also 21 Savage makes music that like they purposely go test out in the strip club before they release it. So maybe he's not relevant in his circle. You know what I mean? Maybe he's not relevant amongst his peers that he's around all the time. But
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's dangerous for anybody to say like, oh, because you're not because I don't see you and I don't hear you that you're not relevant. It doesn't, you know what I mean? Like that's not the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of music that doesn't cross my path, but it's not relevant because I just don't exist in the circles where it's played at. So
Yeah, that's a good point. And I've really been consciously doing that. You know, when people talk about this artist or that artist, I'm not hip to it. That's not something that I'm really into or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And you know, we've talked about it before. Stop talking about the stuff you don't like and talk about the stuff you do like. You know, but bringing it back to, you know, not just 21 Savage, when it comes to ageism, period, it seems that hip hop is the only genre that you're supposed to age out of. I don't know who came up with that.
I think we're seeing a trend away from that more and more. I agree with you, like, and that's how it really was for sure. Like maybe in the earlier 2000s, you know, you started hearing people call someone like Nas or whatever old or washed up or whatever, which was stupid. That's a stupid thing to say too, but I don't think that it's. I think we're starting to see it a little different. You know, you got Mount Westmore, who every MC in that group is 50. You know what I mean, or 50 plus. You know, you could argue that Kendrick is the biggest rapper in the world, and he's, you know, in his late 30s. You know, 2 Chainz is huge. 2 Chainz is probably 40 years old. You know what I mean? I think it's not as prevalent as it once was. The like, oh, you've reached this age and so you're out of here type of mentality. So that's a good. It's trending in the right direction, I think.
Or
What's up, Tino?
What's going on? I'm sorry I dropped in late. I didn't know what time we started, so
You're fine.
no, you good. You
We
came
just-
in. Yeah, it's only a couple minutes. We are still on the. When you popped in, we're still just opening up about, and we started with the news this week with 21 Savage saying that Nas wasn't relevant. That's the only thing we've said so far. You know, so
Yeah,
if you want to chime in on that, go ahead.
yeah. Well, piggybacking off of what Cooley just said, I feel like hip hop hasn't even gotten a chance to get older. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't have acts as old as the Stones yet. We don't have acts like our forefathers and stuff like that are maybe just now getting 60-year-old and stuff like that. So we do have an issue with like trying to like get people out the paint who they feel like aren't, like you said, like 21 mentioned, relevant, of course, and that's relevant to a mainstream audience. But relevancy, like I don't think the Stones haven't had like a hit record on the radio in forever, yet they sell out stadiums, and we don't allow our artists that same period of grace. We do let artists like J. Cole, like you said, like we got J. Cole's, we got the Wale's, we got the Crits who are still relevant to fans of the genre, but these guys, again, Crit doesn't really get radio play. Wale occasionally gets on the radio, but like when you mention guys who are lyrical in the game and who you feel like are out there as far as that goes, and then we usher up such our albums come out much faster than anybody else's albums come out. Our album cycles, our tour cycles are much faster than anybody albums come out. So it just only makes sense that we would want to age out our whoever's in the spotlight. So when guys have runs, like a Drake has had a run where it's like spanning over a decade now, like those are like Hall of Fame like stats, like as far as it goes in hip hop. Because normally your hip hop run, you see a guy maybe for 3 or 4 years, and then after that they are no longer relevant, or they're no longer buzzing like they once were, and then we try and kind of like fade them into the background. And so just to keep relevancy in that mainstream arena, I feel like we don't allow for that in hip hop. But there's still acts who are getting money in Europe, getting money in the United States, that don't have to have hit records, that don't have to have radio play. And I think that's what we're learning from hip hop as it matures.
That's dope. I like that a lot. Definitely. Go ahead, Lady Bounce. You never did get to speak on it.
I mean, I have a couple of thoughts. First of all, like, who is 21 Savage? There's that part. Secondly,
you don't know the best rapper for the UK?
Okay, so I'm gonna say I don't think he has a body of work that's big enough for him to even sit and have an adult conversation. Like, I need you at the kiddie table with Thanksgiving. You ain't made your way over to this side yet. You haven't lived long enough. You haven't seen enough. You haven't done enough. And the whole fact that, you know, your whole persona was busted up like a couple of years ago when we found out you was really from Canada, and this life that you rap about, you have never touched it. I just really need him to have a couple of seats in the Rosa Parks section, because you're not ready for this conversation. Like, you at the kiddie table, just gone over there with that. But wholly in this country, we have a problem with age. Whenever you're watching a sporting event, especially the Olympics, it's really bad. And I'm yelling at the TV like, I don't care if this lady is 80. She just ran the 400 in 30 seconds and she took the gold. Like, who cares how old she is? In this country, we have a huge obsession with youth and young and being young, and that's fine. You're only as young as you feel. You're allowed to feel young and be young and run in those circles. But at the same time, you got to run in the circles you're supposed to be in, you know, with your age. But we just make such a huge deal in this country that everything is based on age. Everything is talked about in terms of age and not as in abilities. So I have a friend of mine is always talking about, you know, my husband being a rapper and talking about a 40-year-old rapper. And I'm like, well, I'm in my 40s. What rapper am I supposed to be listening to? I can't listen to somebody who's 16, 17. He don't have nothing to say to me. She don't have nothing to say to me. She can't speak to me, you know, in that regard. So since I am in my 40s, what kind of music am I supposed to listen to? Like, who's supposed to be making music for me? So thank you, 40-year-old rappers, for still making music, so I have something to listen to.
All right. Go ahead, Cooley. I see you shaking your head. You want to chime in on that?
I think that it was interesting listening to Lady Bounce talk, because I think that the way that she first addressed it was how probably all of us felt when we read the highlight or the headline. I mean, 21 Savage says Nas not. You know, of course, all of us that are, you know, that grew up with him and his music has meant a lot to us. That's our initial reaction. Like, get the fuck out of here. Who the fuck are you? You know what I'm saying? But I think that is also that's ageism in the reverse coming out of us too. Like that knee jerk reaction. It's like, you ain't nobody, motherfucker. Shut the fuck down. Like, you know, he is an accomplished MC.
Right.
He's done. I mean, he's, you know, he has a huge name. He just put a record out with the biggest artist, you know, one of the biggest artists on planet Earth in any genre.
And so I think that's it.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, no, my apologies, Cooley. I think that's where I'm kind of in a little bit of a unique position, being a 30-year-old MC myself. Like, yeah. Like the 20-year-olds, I'm able to understand where they're coming from, and then also I grew up listening to Nas. I love Nas. I like his pen is one of the reasons that I even picked up MCing in the first place. But yeah, I understand the relevancy of a 21 Savage. I like some 21 Savage songs. Like, I'm not gonna even lie. Like, even if it's just for, it's not literally like, and that's what I think sometimes we came up in an era where lyricism was king. I disconnected myself. My apologies. We came up in an era where lyricism was king, but then we forget about the time where before it wasn't really as important as a vibe was. And I think the kids are now in an era where they're like, okay, vibes are more important to us right now, but we do still love our Kendricks. We do still love our J. Cole's and stuff like that, but they don't really, and it's hard for them to go back and listen. Like it's like you said with the Beatles. Like you mentioned yourself, Cooley, the Beatles, and how like you felt like that was forced upon you to like have to love that. I feel like sometimes we try and force upon the youth our love of things to them that sounds antiquated or sounds old. We came up in a time where we attach this nostalgia and this coming of age to these records that we so love, and we can hear the like our whole lives played out through some of these records. Whereas a kid who you put on a Biggie record and he's like, this isn't really what I want to listen to, because that nothing he listens to sounds anything like Biggie to him. So that's just I feel like I'm in a little bit of a unique place, and that I can like kind of I'm touching both bases with the topic today.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because one thing that I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I think about it a lot is like you just mentioned, like seeing Biggie, especially the videos and stuff like that. These kids don't know that life. You know what I mean? They don't have that experience like that we had during that era, because that's like my era. I'm just now becoming an adult, and I am kicking it like that. I'm, you know what I'm saying, rocking like that, going to parties like that. But one thing I've noticed, like I said, I'm just thinking about it all the time, is that even when I was younger, I listened to like older music. I mean, that's why we had the era of hip hop that we had, because of listening to older music. And I just think that like now they don't want to listen to older music. But you made a good point about it, because they don't know that life. And how do we make it so that people want to know history? I guess you can't force that upon them either, but like I wanted to hear those old records and just could spend hours just listening to that for little pieces that you might want to use, or just to spark that feeling. Like I remember that episode of the Wu Saga, for people that watch the Wu Saga show, and Cooley hits me up right after he watches, like, have you seen this episode? What is it? I think it's season 2, episode 7 or 8, maybe, where it's making the process of making the beat. And I'm not a producer, but I'm a digger, so I felt that episode, and I know Cooley felt it, being a producer. Like, you know, you're listening to that piece, and you're relating it to yourself and your life experience too, and it just has a feeling. But you made a good point saying it's just about the vibe. They want a vibe, and I guess I understand that. I guess I am old and I don't want a vibe. I just want to chill. That's right, chill.
I think you touched on a real good point there, and the fact that you listen to the records and you were familiar with the older records when you heard them like sampled in the newer records. Like now I hear newer records and I know what the original was, and sometimes I go, why would they have touched this original? Because that's so incredible for them to have done that. But your parents probably were exactly like that when they heard hip hop. He's like, that's an Isley Brothers sample. This is a way better song than when originally it is. They didn't even try and give hip hop a chance, probably based off of that alone. So I think that's a way that they're trying to like give a little bit of a history lesson, because you're like, oh, like if I'm hanging out with a younger homie, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the Sweet Fantasy Baby like joint right there. With like they sampled that for the ODB. Like, what are you talking about? Then they might go back and listen to the original joint because they heard that sample and they like the sample, and maybe now they'll sample it. It's like, so I see them trying to give a little bit of a nod to the old school, but in the same way, I listen to it. I'm like, why would they have touched this? This did not need to be touched. But your parents was exactly like that when we were flipping the classics for them. It was like, you just need to leave that alone. That's a classic, bro. Like so I feel like
touch my records, boy. As you were talking, I was thinking about. I was thinking about the first time I played Herb Alpert Rise in the car with our son when he was little, and he was like, he stole Biggie's song. And I was like, oh, son. Oh, how I have failed you. So we had to have a whole music lesson the rest of the car ride. Like, no, son, you're not going to be walking around thinking that he stole from Biggie. We're not going to do that. Go ahead, Cooley.
I also think we have to be careful that when we read something like a younger artist says, we just jump out the window with it. We can't apply what he said to every person in his age group. You know what I mean? This is one man's opinion. And and also, like I said earlier, it might have just been a spur of the moment feeling that he had. He might not even really think that way. He was just in a conversation and he said something. So I think it's easy for us to take something like that and be like, these kids don't know shit. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, nah, really, it's just this guy doesn't know shit. You know, or he said some shit that wasn't educated. But that doesn't mean that. I mean, there are people in this camp that love Nas. You know what I mean? So we can't. We gotta. I think we gotta relax to some extent when stuff like this happens.
Oh yeah, I agree. Because like you said earlier, in the beginning, I saw people in his age group saying the same, thought it was dumb too. They thought it was crazy. So yeah, I definitely, but you know how media is, and want to throw somebody out there. Somebody's got to be crucified today. We've got to have our crucifixion per day.
Yeah, we got to have our daily cancellation.
So, yeah, I think, you're right. We got to, relax. And which I didn't say anything about. I just like slowly, when I had time to look at the different stuff that people were saying. But, my whole initial thing was like, not the 21 Savage's whack or nothing. That's just not what I don't mess with that. So, I mean, it just didn't matter to me really. And, and it probably wouldn't have mattered unless we already had this show today that we were already talking about this topic. I probably wouldn't even looked into it at all. But yeah, I definitely think relax. Also, what can we do? Because it does seem like there's the artists that we do like seem like they kind of get pushed on the back burner. Like you won't hear them on the radio, which I don't listen to the radio anyway. And that was another thing about is the music. It's like when we were coming up, Rap City, Pump It Up, Yo MTV Raps, you had a mixture of everything that was out there. And like now you don't get that mixture. And I think that will kind of broaden the perspective of what people hear or what people think about certain types of music or artists if you got a better palette of what's out there.
I think that falls on us. You know what I mean? We have to. We can't gatekeep the stuff that we grew up with. You know what I mean? We have to have those conversations with younger people. Like, hey, you dig this? That's cool. You should check this out. You know what I mean? It's each one teach them. We can't just sit back on a high horse and just expect that everybody's going to think and listen to everything that we listen to and check into what we're into and all that. We gotta get out of our bubble. You know what I mean? It's the same with politics. It's the same with everything. You can't just be in the echo chamber like, no, Nas is the greatest, which I think Nas is the greatest. But what good is it doing me to sit with my peers and say that when I could be trying to tell somebody who maybe never heard Nas before, you should check this dude out. He's crazy. You know what I mean? Lyrically, he's gonna spark your brain, and I don't know. It's on us. I think it's on us.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think so. That's one of the things I miss most about working at Omega, because it was this, I don't remember his name, but he was a young kid, UD. I know he went to UD and he was a philosophy major, and he would come in there and he would ask, who was some older era guys that I would check out, and I walk him right back over there, like bam. And Nas Illmatic was one of the albums that I had him get. You know what I mean? Like, you should check this out. And then once he sat and listened to it, come back, okay, what's next? What else do I need to check out? So yeah, I definitely agree that, we just gotta have, those conversations of like, I think we get all these blurbs, like you said, sitting in our corner, preaching to the choir, basically, and I think you and Lady Bounce are in a great position at being DJs, where you get to like play stuff for people that may not have access to some of the joints that you play. I really wish that like when you were when your sets at the bowling alley was pumped out to the alleys too. Man, I wish that was so, because you have a wide range of age people that are at the bowling alley. It's not like a bar. You're only gonna have this age to that age at the bar, but like that would give a chance for people to really, and like when Lady Bounce has done like picnics and stuff like that, and that gives you that chance to really. In my day, we talked about DJs used to break records, and a lot of times you don't get to see that happen, especially when it comes to radio. You're definitely not going to see that happen unless we're talking to college radio or internet radio.
Yeah, because it's not really geared towards the. It's like they want people from like 16 to 35 on to listen. They feel like that's their target demographic, that's their target audience. You can even tell by the commercials that they play that that's who they're getting their ad money from, and that's who's dictating what's on the top 40 of the charts. So you're not gonna really find any artists like for the most part. These kids are not going to be exposed to that through what their avenues are. Even their playlists are not going to be geared towards helping them discover new artists. I think you were mentioning it earlier about how to help these kids or how these new artists don't really like know their history and stuff like that. It's like I would hate to have been a new artist, a young new artist right now, because of how fast material comes out and how you're trying to stay up on any of the newer topics or the new releases. Like when you got a new like Nas album, or you got a new DM, you could count on there being like maybe one or two, or like every week maybe being one release that you really wanted to look forward to, but maybe not even then. Like sometimes your favorite artist wasn't going to drop for 3 or 4 more years. Like they wasn't pulling no DMX where they was dropping two, like that was unheard of for him to drop twice in the same year like that. But now, like I put out myself 6 projects in the last 2 years, like not trying to stay relevant, but just trying to make sure that there is quality material out there for new listeners to be able to attack, because like things go by so fast now. Like if you try and show somebody an album from 2019, they're like, well, this is like, what are you doing here? Like I've got a new 21 Savage and Drake album to listen to. I got this new Jid album backlog. I got like, they've got so many things that they're like wanting to get to before they would even go back and try and take up some of the older material. And when being a DJ, you are in a unique position to like, you can still break records, but then you can still like show people older records. Like whenever I like get the opportunity to play music for people, that's like one of my favorite things to do, is to play local artists and then older artists, like so that I can like expose people so people can come up and ask, because like that's what starts the conversation. Like, who was this or what was that you just played? Because a lot of people don't even get outside. Like even us, like even like my age group, like a lot of people who are my age group, like we get so stuck in our ways, we're not going to be looking for new stuff from people that we've never heard of before, or even older stuff. We don't like a lot of times, like they don't really go back and listen to like stuff from the 60s or the 50s and stuff like that, because it's like, well, I mean, if I haven't encountered it yet, then why? Like, nobody puts that digging mentality into doing things. And it's like I try and put on a new record that I never heard of. At least try and do it once a week, because I don't want to get caught up in that same. I'm just listening to the same stuff that everybody else is listening to, or what I feel like everybody else is listening to, because you don't ever get to grow as an artist or even as a music lover, because it's like I don't want to be stuck recycling this, because it'll be easy for me to go put on a big record. It's easy for me to go put on a Nas record. It's easy for me to go put on some Kendrick, because those things they feel a certain way. It's hard for me to go ahead and say, let me listen to this Duckworth album. I don't know, like I put on, like I go find a Spotify playlist of young kid stuff, and I'll try and listen to the younger stuff And then once something sparks my interest, then I go, all right, let me go listen to this whole person's album, because that's how I get put on to something completely different than I would have never encountered generally out anywhere, because I'm not going to these young kid parties, and I'm not listening, like y'all said, I'm not listening to the radio. So like, I have to be able to find these different, another avenue for me to get broken into some newer music, or even like in the same way, some older music. I might listen to some older rock and I'm like, man, I did not know, like, this is a like Rick, I did not know I was a big fan of they call him the piano man. What's his name? It's blanking on me right now. Billy Joel. I didn't know I was a big Billy Joel fan. I love Billy Joel, and that's just something I realized in the last 2 years, because I was like, somebody played not Down and Out. They played me a record. I was like, oh, let me go listen to some other. I was like, oh, I love this one too. I love Uptown Girl. I love like oh man, I'm a big Billy Joel fan, and I would not have like been able to do that if I hadn't been like exposed to like just listen. I went to like a 70s rock playlist, and some Billy Joel came on, and I was like, oh, I'm a big Billy Joel fan. But I'm gonna let y'all take it off. I'm running at the yapper right now, so go ahead.
No, it's all good. It's all good. That's what we're here for. But yeah, I'm a big Billy Joel fan. I mean, I grew up on Billy Joel, so that was my
Billy Joel. There was no Billy Joel played in my house. I never experienced any Billy Joel until I didn't know I experienced Billy Joel. I had heard some of these songs, but I didn't really. It never clicked that like this was who this was, or that I was even enjoying the music for what it was.
Or
Well, see, that's why you need to come check me out when I DJ, because I play all of that stuff, all the genres, all the different ages. Like when I DJ, because I DJ at Barrel House, and it's such like an eclectic, chill spot, I can like play what I want to, pretty much, and just about every song is gonna hit with somebody in the room, because I grew up like that. I grew up with, I had a sister who went through, for lack of a better term, a white phase. She only dated white boys. She only had white friends. She only listened to white music. She dressed like she was going to a hard rock concert every day, with the bandanas tied around her head and her neck, and tied around her leg. So I got introduced to, like Queen and Billy Joel and Elton John and Madonna, because that's all she listened to for a good 5 or 6 years. Like, she was fully immersed. Like, and we would like make jokes and be like, hey, if we told her she was black, we might have to fight her, because she really thought she was down. We were like, no, you're one of us. Like, look at your daddy. Look at our daddy. Look at your mama. But so like, when I look at people and they see like this little black girl, I was like, wait a minute, there's a whole crew in here of Amy's and Mindy's, because of my sister, and how I watched, and I had another sister who went through a similar phase, but not as long as my other sister. So growing up and having a dad who was a DJ too, I got exposed to all of that. And then Jay's always laughing at me, and then thankful at the same time, because of that, I was able to give our kids a well-rounded musical palette in ways that he wasn't, because he was like, I wasn't listening to that. I wasn't about to buy that. When the Queen movie came out, me and the kids was geeked. He was like, I'm not going to see that. I'll get y'all some tickets though. What time y'all want to go? When it came out on DVD, and he bought me the DVD, I was like, I gotta watch this right now. He like, I'm going in the basement. I'll be back in a couple of hours. Like, dude, don't do me like that.
Yeah, Picky,
you gotta get with some Queen, baby. You can't hate on Queen.
I mean, I watched the movie, but that wasn't what I was into when I was younger. I wasn't into
sports
Queen
songs, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, because I played basketball, so of course I know we will rock you. I love Revenge of the Nerds, so of course I knew We Are the Champions.
We Are the Champions. Mighty Ducks put me on the We Are the Champions, but Highlander put me on the Princess of the Universe, like the Highlander TV series. That too.
Yep.
I was like, oh,
so, yeah, those are the three.
Queen was, but I was a Queen fan when I found out, because I was like, Bill and Ted. I'd known 4 Queen songs my whole life, and then I was like, oh, they do a lot more than these 4 songs. They fire with it. You can't front on Freddie, man. You can't front.
Oh no! Like I said, I eventually watched the movie, and it was a well done movie. I mean, it was some other movie that was around that era that was like, it was more to me because I was more the Benny and the Jets. What's my man's name?
Oh,
Elton John.
Elton John.
Elton
It slipped my
John, yeah.
mind. I knew his music more, so that movie meant more to me because I already knew Elton John. You know what I mean? So I did eventually watch the Queen movie, and it was a well made, very well made movie. You know, so I listened to the songs that I know from them, but like I said, the Elton John movie was dope because I knew his music. I grew up in the '80s in Huber Heights. It's basically like Stranger Things minus the monsters. So, so you know that really pop stuff. You know, Elton John. Like I said, that's why I was a Billy Joel fan. And you're talking about MTV 1981. Michael Jackson was the only black artist on MTV. I think the second might have been Run DMC. So you know, I was watching Bowie, Billy Joel, and Elton. They still had those great careers in the '80s, you know. So that's what was on there every day, you know. And of course, Van Halen. You know, of course, Van Halen. I still got like Van Halen records still downstairs now.
And it, like, that's what's crazy about those artists, and like the fact that like those genres let them continue. Like Freddie's gone, they let Adam Lambert fill in for him, and they still getting money off of them songs. Like it's crazy how the longevity works, and other like, and like you don't really even become a dope jazz guy till you hit like 40 or 50 years old. Like that's when they start talking about your name in that echelon of like the Dizzies and like the Coltrane's and stuff. You gotta start really working. You gotta, like, to be a guy who just gets up there now, you gotta have been putting in the work for 50 years before they really equate you to being like one of the maestros, the masters of that genre. And I think that's the same thing we're finding. Like the same thing is happening with the older artists in hip hop. It's like, man, these guys are still putting together like these incredible verses, these incredible runs. But I don't think their hunger for the limelight and stuff like that is not the same as it once was either. Because it's like, I've done this part of the game. Now I just want to do the things that I love to do, and I'm not really concerned about. I've established myself well enough that I don't even need to consider if a 14-year-old is going to listen to me. But that 14-year-old, it's that the 14-year-old's 30 or something year old dad's job to put him on to Jay-Z, to put him on the Nas. Like we can't, as artists, we can put our nods to certain lyrics in songs so that people want to backtrack and stuff like that. But it's really up to, like, if I had a child, like, they would definitely be getting a steady dose of all of these different things that I love, because it's like, that's who I grew up listening to the Whispers and all of these different, like, older, what we would call old school, because I was riding around with my grandparents all the time, going to see family in different states and stuff like that. So my grandfather would play the Whispers album. I had to ask him after 9 hours on our way to Indianapolis and back. He is a 6-hour drive. After about the third or the hour 3 on the way back, I had to ask him, hey, can we change the CD just once? Because I know all the words, the special effects, and everyone, this is what I can do to get you in the mood. I know all. And so he changed it up. He put Isaac Hayes on, and he played the Isaac Hayes album for the next 3 hours, all the way back. No skips, no nothing. So it's like you get exposed to these because the previous generation makes you understand the importance of the generation that came before you. So I think that's up to us as fans of music, and to impart that on to our children, because I mean, somebody's making these babies, and somebody's making these babies, so it's up to them to make sure that these kids come up with the tool set to recognize, oh, that was a interpolation of this song that I love, or my dad loves, or whatever. I know a young kid named his name's OG Vern, and he's from Columbus, Ohio, and he's about, I want to say 25, but when I met him, he was like 18, and he was the biggest MF Doom fan you ever heard, but he rapped like a 21 Savage. And so, like, his dad put him on the MF Doom. His dad had him listening to Mad Villainy. His dad had him in love with food and stuff like that. So like it's not and so he's like this, well, like you can listen to his music and you're like, oh well, this guy, I know what he listens to, but you don't know what he listens to because he was given that full, like you said, you do with your children, Lady Brown. You give them that full array, that full palette that they are able to work with, so that then later on, when they don't want to rap like 21 Savage anymore, or they decide they feel like they got too old, so now they wear a mask and they can literally, nobody has to know how old they are while they're doing these things. Then he can go ahead and he can pivot and do something like Doom did.
So
Yeah, that's a real
I
good
know
point.
originally, hip hop was the voice of the people, and it was the voice of youth. So because it started off that way, do you guys think that that's why hip hop is such a young man's game now? Because when it started, it was the young people, talking about their lives and what they saw. LL was what, 16, 17 when he first came out. And so now he's 60, and does anybody want to hear a 60-year-old rapper? That kind of thing. So do you think that that's why, hip hop and rap music has like this connotation that it is for the youth and not for us?
Ladies definitely want to hear that 60-year-old rapper if he's LL Cool J.
Facts. Well, I think that I mean that's a possible thing, but I think that one of the problems, I think, to solve that problem, as hip hop has grown up and those guys have gotten older, it's up to people like us to continue to support those artists that have grown up, that we've grown up with. To Tino's point, it's like about I can do what I want to do now. I don't want the limelight. It made me think of Cooley also always hipping me to stuff. The Large Professor being on the Ghetto Boys podcast, and he said that exact same thing. Like, I don't have to worry about being in the industry now. Now I've established myself to the point where like I can go do these parties and feel the original essence of why I started doing hip hop. I carry my records with me. Cool. I could pop in a joint, spin for a while. I could open up the mic for a while and get that feeling of hip hop, what it was to me when I was starting it. So I think that's very much our responsibility. It's not as artists, but our responsibility as fans to continue to support these artists as they've grown and we've grown with them. So I would love to see Large Professor at Yellow Cab just DJing if that's what he wants to do. And I definitely will be up in the front row talking to him like I've known him forever, even though I haven't. Cooley will tell you that.
Now you know Large Professor, bro. I saw you meet Large Professor. That was like your long lost best friend. Make the call, get him to yellow cab. He probably give you the family rate, man.
Yeah, Tino, Cooley, I have to tell you that story some other time. But it was when I met Large Professor for the church, I chopped it up with him like he was my homie. To the point.
I never seen nobody meet a person for the first time this aggressively in my life. I couldn't even see Large Professor because Pickett's back was to me, and he was, hugging Large Professor like he was his. Like they went to college together, and then their lives drifted apart, and they always wondered, they never were able to keep up with each other, and then you'd have thought that they won $1 million together at some point. I was like,
oh, that's too funny.
I was like, who was that, man? Your cousin? He was like, that was Large Professor. I was like, whoa.
Whoa.
You just tackled Large Professor? I thought you knew the guy. What the hell? I thought we were going to get kicked out. He hugged this man so aggressive.
It's fun time. But yeah, I would love to see Large. I would love to see. Q-Tip might be a little larger than that, but I would love to see Q-Tip if he just wanted to spin records, or not for any one of that. I always have liked. When it comes to hip hop, I think that I enjoy smaller venues better. It's that more intimacy. It feels kind of like, back in the day. Me and Cooley went and saw Homeboy Sandman in Columbus. I love this setup. I love the fact that I did him the same way as Large Professor. I went and talked to him like I almost knocked the guy over, first of all. even though he was like a giant, I'm going to the bathroom and kind of bumped him to the point I almost knocked him over. I'm like, dang, I'm sorry. I didn't even realize who it was at first. So when I came back, it's like, yo, sorry, bro. I almost, knocked you down, my fault. And I was like, hold on, this is home. This is what I came to see. I didn't realize he was so tall in person. I was like, dang. He was like, I told him, we know a lot of people will come. I was like, my name Pickett. He like my name. He gave me his real name. It's like, my name's Angel. I was like, yeah, you kind of look like an angel. You like a giant. He was like a giant.
You did not tell this man he looked like an angel.
Yes, I mean, you kind of look like an angel. Hey. But yeah, I like those small. Me and Cooley had been to a show there before. We saw Lyric Jones and Rod Digger there. I like those smaller, intimate shows. I mean, but that's how I think that we just need to go and support, those artists as they grow. We grew with them, and I think that's one of the problems. That might be a reason that they really don't have any desire to really go at it like that, is because they don't have that support system that they probably should be having. I mean, nobody buys records anymore. Well, the average people don't buy records. We still all buy records. I mean, there's people that buy. I'm talking about like, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially people.
It's a dangerous.
No, hold on. Let me clear it up. Let me follow me.
I gotta eat too, man.
No, hold on. Follow me. Like Professor Griff, I was just following. I mean, like people my age and my background, on average, those people don't buy records. There's people, lots and lots of people that buy records. I'm saying like say like a lot of people that I might not, that I know, that I'll be hanging with, like say like for instance, a lot of people that came to saw Lady Bounce DJ the other day. These guys may like music, but they're not continual to buy records. I'm not talking about people like us here right now. We're always gonna buy records. So just clearing that up. I'm not saying people aren't buying records. I mean, think about Club 937. These people that go to Club 937, their music consumption is going to the club. They aren't, or their Spotify. They aren't. I got Spotify. Why should I buy? But I miss live.
Well, I mean, we went to we went to Barrel House's anniversary party yesterday, and I had somebody come up to me and kind of whisper in my ear like, "Oh, I got the hookup on free music if you interested." And I was kind of taken aback. Like I was a little bit appalled. Like, wait a minute. Like, wait. Like, no. First of all, if I wanted to get free music, I know how to do that. Okay, so there's that. But then I'm like, my brother is a manager of a music store. So if I needed music, that's where I'm going. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need you to give me the hookup on free. Like, it was just such a weird kind of a thing. Like, I noticed you DJ, you know how to get free music. And I was like, huh? And then Jay was like, why did you even dignify it with a response? I'm like, because I had to say something. I'm like,
nah, I think you gotta say, sometimes you just gotta let people talk and just be like, okay.
Did you meet are you saying that you met the time traveler from 2005? Is that what you're saying? Because I've never heard of somebody in 2022 being like, I got free music, bro. I got free music.
I know where to get that.
Yeah.
He was gonna also offer you some bootlegs as well.
Yeah, bootleg CDs in the trunk for sure.
I got that new Denzel. Got the new Denzel joint.
New Denzel joint.
Yeah, I was just and then I felt bad afterwards. Like when you always you rethink situations, and of course hindsight is 2020. So I was like, well, I should have said, and then I should have, and then I was like, nah, you probably just did the best you could in the moment, because I was so taken aback by the comment and the question, like, huh? Yeah.
So mentioning about people buying records, Cooley, what when it comes to people coming in buying records, who do you see mostly coming in buying records?
I mean, it's all age ranges really. it's a lot of young people, but probably more young people than you would think. You know what I mean? Than the average person might think. You have some insight because you work there too, but it's like we sell. We sell NBA YoungBoy on vinyl. You know what I mean? We sell. A lot of the newer R&B artists on vinyl. And they sell, you know what I mean? People buy them. So, and it's not people that look like me buying them or look like you know what I mean? It's people that are in that age range. So, it definitely keeps me young. My ears younger anyway, because it forces me to have to be like, man, I don't know, a lot of people love this. I should check it out because I see it. I see the commerce happening in front of me at all times. So yeah, it's a unique position to be in, and it definitely changes. It changes the narrative in my mind of like, oh, these kids don't appreciate the music. They don't buy the music. They do. They really do.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of vinyl, somebody on here's got vinyl coming, right?
I do have a little bit of a vinyl release on the way. Well, it's actually technically out now, but it's shipping from France. So, got a collaborative record with DJ Martin Deezer on his Stereo Funk Records out of Rennes, France. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. My French ain't. I don't parlez-vous français,
Bonjour.
But no, it's very dope. Like we linked up through Bandcamp, and that's another one of that's another thing that's like, it's like over in Europe, like the hip hop over there, they love what we consider the irrelevant artists, the 21 Savage irrelevant artists. They get so much love over in Europe. Like that's why a lot of them they tour over there consistently, because they love the art form, they love the craft so much. Like this DJ Martin, big graffiti artist. He's a DJ, of course. He does production. He's part of like a group called Funky Bijou they do breakbeat albums, and like a lot of his stuff gets played in like the Olympics and gets played at the Red Bull competitions and stuff like that. So like they are fans of the culture in all facets, and so for us, and I think Martin's in his like 40s or something like that, and like there's a like bigger, stronger push for like older artists over there, but also older fans over there who still appreciate, who still go over there and help them sell out the bigger venues. I know if some artists come over here, they got to play, and that may be more ego than anything. If you got to come play a smaller cap room than you're accustomed to playing, because you used to once sell out Madison Square Garden, and now you got to come over and do like something like the Bright Side, and it's a different feel for you. Whereas you can still go over to Germany or something like that and still play a venue to that kind of capacity, that kind of crowd. It's like you would definitely want that. You want to. I can understand wanting to keep that same feel. You don't want to feel like ego will make you feel like you fell off. Whereas if you just think about it in a certain way, it's like this is just a transition of how your art has gone. Like there's cats, but this is what's crazy. It's like artists. There's like artists who didn't make a money at all in their entire lifetime until after they died, and they're still talked about to this day. And it's like, well, you had this huge run, this massive run, and then you still get to make a living off of this, and you don't have to worry about how you're going to feed yourself or feed your family or anything like that. That's not a failure. That's still a major accomplishment to be doing this for a decade's run like that. And we have an obsession with falling off, like in our culture. Like, oh, that dude fell off. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, he ain't got no more hits. That like we there's a stigma that goes with not having hits. The stigma that goes with not having albums that break into the top 40. There's a stigma that goes with that with our genre, just because our artists will be quick to talk trash about your last album flopping. Like they'll tell you, it'll be on a record. Or if you approach the younger artists, will approach a newer or established artist, and like with 21, he probably was like, oh, he ain't got no platinum plaques in the last 10 years or whatever. So why would I equate him to being a star in the right that he is a star. It's just ingrained in our culture to be that way. It's because what's ingrained in our culture is also the competitiveness, and also the not insults, but the dozens is ingrained in our culture. So like if you see anybody what you consider slipping, then or lacking, then you coming for them. That's just how it is. And so like eventually you just as you mature, you realize these things aren't as important as I once thought they was as a 20-year-old. Like as a 25-year-old me, I was like, man, if you ain't popping by 30, I thought I was gonna shut my Facebook down by 30. This is how a young person it was thinking. I was like, man, I wouldn't add anybody who was over 30 on Facebook. I was like, once I get to 30, I'm not gonna be like these cats. I'm off Facebook. This is for the children. This is what it is. But then as I got older, my mindset changed. My mindset about what is success. I got a vinyl record coming. Like when I started rapping, there's no way I thought I would have had a vinyl record, an album on vinyl. I never would have thought I would have been getting paid by the city of Huber Heights to host festivals. I never would have thought I would have had a song get placement on a commercial. Like these are metrics of success that I never even considered as a younger artist. As a younger artist, if I didn't get signed and if I didn't have a song that people had heard on the radio, whether that be, I didn't even think about college radio. I didn't even think about public radio. Like I've gotten songs on WYSO. I've got songs on the UD radio and stuff like that. But like in my mind, I was like, if I ain't on Hot 10209, then I ain't did nothing with this whole career. And it's like, I think we also are I don't want to call them elder statesmen, but our older acts in the genre also come to the realization that these things aren't as important as they once were, and so they don't need to seek that kind of validation that the young person feels is actually validation. You come to a point where you realize, hey, this is winning, this is success. And I have people like you said who, if you would support me, you show up to a show in Columbus, you drove an hour away to come see me play a venue in Columbus, I am winning. Like that's like it doesn't matter how many people I put in the seats. You took an hour out of your time, and you still think I'm relevant, and I have to use different metrics now to try and equate my success to than what I did when I was 21 years old and I had the number 2 song in the country at that time. You know what I'm saying? So I think that is one of the things that we miss out on, as we don't think like the young people think anymore, because we don't think like we used to think. And so I think we have to kind of be okay with the younger generation not putting the same level of respect on people's names that we would feel like they should be putting out on there, because we don't, like you said, we don't put the same level of respect on the names of people. Yeah, I ain't no way you're gonna get me to listen to an NBA Young Boy album. I'm sorry, I can't do it. So at the same point, if I can't bring myself, now don't get me wrong, if he had some joints, I would listen to them joints. I
don't have no joints, trust me.
That's what I'm saying. Now you know who do it? Herbo G Herbo. I love G Herbo. He's got some joints, but she said no. Listen, go listen to Malcolm. If you don't like Malcolm, I don't know. That's Malcolm's a rap fan's record. Like it is just him telling.
I'm gonna take your word for it, because when I hear my students playing that and they play G Herbo and NBA Youngboy, that's how I know that I'm old. Because when they listen to that in class, I'm like, that's not helping you think. That's not doing nothing for you. What the hell is he talking about? And it's so depressing. And is everybody depressed? And everybody's taking pills and suicidal? Like, where's the happy hip hop at now? Like, where's I'm going to the party, dressed fresh because there's girls there. Like, where's those songs at out of like the young people? And so, Cooley had mentioned it last week when he was like, one of the shows he popped in, he was like, "That's reverse ageism," and you're right, it is, because I feel like I have turned into my mother and how she used to do us on cleaning day. Like, in a black household, when Anita Baker come on, you washing baseboards and windows for the whole rest of the day. You already know that's what's going down. On Sunday morning, we couldn't play like hip hop or rap music to get ready for church because you about to go into the Lord's house with the music of the devil in your soul. Like, so that's how I know I'm older, because I have turned into my mother. And when my students are listening to this music in class, and Jake called me one day on his lunch break, and I had a student in my room, and she was playing music, and he was like, "What the hell is that?" I was like, "Man, I don't know, but I'm dying." I was like, "Stop it! Where's your headphones? Plug them in!" Like, I couldn't take it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so like, if we can't find ourselves doing the same thing in reverse for them, then we can't expect them to do the same. You got to be the change you wish to see. So, like, when I tell you that there's artists out here, Jid, you got G Herbo. If you listen to Malcolm, it is a very well told story. He might not be exactly on beat often, but like, we let some people slide on that often back in the day. Okay,
I'm gonna go listen just because you said so. But if it's trash, I'm gonna be in your inbox.
Hey, look, be in my inbox. Come through, so we can have a whole discourse on the beauty of Malcolm and the storytelling. Like, kids don't get storytelling a lot of times. So, like, any kind of storytelling, I'm for them getting it. And he does a decent job of telling you a day in the life of a Chicago MC on the South Side. Like, it's just like it's one of those like, it makes me feel some type of way. And if you feel some type of way, then the music is doing its job at that point. And so I feel like we have to extend to them the same kind of leniency, or the same kind of we want to extend to them the same kind of attempt that we want them to make for us in their way. Because how can you have a conversation with somebody about Biggie if you're not willing to also have a reverse conversation about a newer artist that you enjoy? Because then that gives them a way of communicating with you. Because if you're like, oh, okay, so you like Jid, okay, maybe I should check out Machine Gun Funk by Big. Maybe I should, because you like the way that those triplets is done in that song. Check out this song for me, because this is how he might have been like this is like a forefront to what you're hearing now. So it's like, you got to give them some kind of link between. You can't just say, because your parents were probably just like, hey, this is what it is, and this is how you should like it. This is real music. And they would play these joints and be like, this is real music. This is what you need to love. Versus what you like, no, but check this out. And they would never extend to you the same thing. Did you ever make your mom a Pac fan? Did you ever make your mom a Nas fan? Did your mom, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to think about the same way that they were staunch against listening to what you wanted to listen to. That's the way that you sound when you talk to a younger person, or if you're trying to open up a younger person to being open to listening to the older genres or the older generation that came before them.
And now I do that. So first, to answer your question, no, never made mom a Pac fan or a Biggie fan, or even if Biggie fan, she said they cuss too much. Now,
that's because you were listening to No Limit. You weren't listening to Pac and Biggie.
Yeah, that's right. You was listening to No Limit.
Yeah, you was listening to Silk the Shocker. Of course, your mom didn't like that.
Hey, if you listen to Silk, listen, I don't want to hear nothing about Herbo G. Silk ain't never rapped on beat. Silk ain't never been on beat when he rapped. Okay.
Hey, Tino,
no, never.
Tino, when I met her, she had a No Limit chain. She had the chain, the gold, the gold.
It's a gift. I did not buy it.
Still, you was rocking it. You was still rocking it though.
Like, you were happy about having that chain.
She thought they was on point. And I told her, I was like, yo, when I first heard No Limit, I thought it was supposed to be a joke, kind of like Rapping Duke or something. I didn't realize it was real.
Anyway,
it took me a minute.
I did have that.
It took me a minute to realize it was for real.
but I did have that kind of relationship with my dad, Tino, where I was able to turn my dad on to a lot of music. But that was because my dad was a DJ and we DJed together. So while he brought, the music of his generations, through when we DJed, I brought the music of my generation and we fed off each other, very well. Now, when it comes to my students, I make jokes, but I do listen to some of the stuff that they play for me. And then there's some of it that I'm like, the first 30 seconds, I'll be like, okay, that's enough. That's too much for me. What else do you have? In your repertoire, because that's not doing anything for me. So I do, do the back and forth, with some of them, but some of them, like some of it, I just be like, okay, wait, no, you can't even, no, I can't. But you brought up an interesting point about, caring about being relevant and caring about being, the best and being on top. So it sparked this thought. Do you guys, and anyone of you can take it, do you think that the younger rappers having that thought and that mentality is what's leading to so many of them getting killed so young? Like, we just saw what happened with Takeoff. He's only 28. We saw what happened with Nipsey Hussle. We saw what happened with Young Dolph. So do you think that kind of attitude out of these younger rappers is what is fueling so many of them getting killed?
Well, one thing is that's always happened, and it's always going to probably happen. I mean, we had rappers get murdered when we were young. Biggie and Pop, the biggest, Freaky Tah, Big L. So I mean, that's something that's always going to happen. I think, and ego is the main thing for that. I think that ego gets a lot of people in trouble, and it always will. That's something that's separate from rap. That's just life. And I mean, I hate that it's like that, but I think that the era that we live in now, it's bigger because of social media. People argue with strangers. They're ready to kill strangers, and it could be over little or nothing. It's words on a screen, and then I think that makes a lot of people think they're tougher than they are. One of the famous lines that I hear from Cooley is, I've been knocked out before. It's not that bad. It's but this thing has made them boost their ego up in some ways that it could easily get them in more trouble than before. Like usually you see people that were beefing, it was because they had really some type of personal thing going on. But now people beef with strangers just as good as anything. I think that because of the way things are now, digital social media, things escalate a lot quicker. Everybody's a tough guy. People don't know how to communicate with each other, period. Because you are one person that you text me, but don't call me. I don't want to talk on the phone. That's like your thing. I'm like, I would rather you call me, because sometimes words are hard to interpret the emotion in them, just reading them, or get a proper understanding if you don't hear the inflections or the tone. And I think that we're in an era where it's not going to go back. You're going to see people still having these incidents, going to get worse. And like I said, everybody thinks they're a tough guy now, and everybody wants to show and prove that. I mean, we had a incident, not at our situation, but outside of where we were having an event, that there's some people fighting, and instead of people trying to de-escalate, everybody pulls out their phone. Everybody wants to see, like Tino said, everybody wants to see the failure. Everybody wants to see the badness. And I think, and since hip hop culture is at the main front of the visual of our world now, it a lot of times, because there's no balance, a lot of people think that that's just the way these people are. A crazy incident happened to me at work, and I've been telling people this because it was like, I thought it was a TV show. I thought it was fake. This guy on the phone talking regular. Then he comes up to me and he changes the way he's talking. Y'all ain't got them individualized cups. He was a foreign guy. And I was like, what? What is he saying? He repeated it. And then walks away for a second. I immediately start looking for cameras. This can't be real. This can't be real. Turns back around, it's like, hey, yo, trash bags, gloves. Like, what? Ask me where the trash bags and gloves. I'm quick speeding the conversation because it's crazy. He walks away. Later, he comes back. I tell my coworkers, like, y'all got to hear the way this dude talks. So my coworker speaks to him, talks regular again. So I handed him a card for the video so he could watch the video. Oh, I got a mixtape dropping next week. Million followers, you heard? And they was like, they're stunned. They're stunned because he switched it up so quick. He's still walking away. Turns around, and this is the end of it. Taking over black people business. My coworkers is like they're like really blown away. They thought I set it up. I was like, no, I had to make him talk so that you guys are witnesses to what I saw.
What the hell?
He, because of the culture, he thinks that that's the way he should talk to me.
No, that's because of the way he was raised. He ain't got no home training.
I mean, that could be too. But that could be too.
Yeah,
but I
noticed.
Oh man.
It's funnier every time you tell the story. Golly, I just can't.
I thought I was being punked. I thought I was being punked, but I had to really think about it. I could have, if I was a younger dude, I probably would have got mad because I see a younger dude would have probably smacked him up or something like that. But I had to like quickly think because one of my coworkers said we should do something. I'm like, what are we gonna do? Do something and get fired? Because he's a young guy. Yeah, because he's 25. He's thinking we should just go. We can't beat this dude up. First of all, we're at work. You gotta, think about what's really happening here. But yeah, he first, besides being stunned, he's like, we should go do something. What? Now we should probably outside of work, we could talk to him and let him know that this is not cool. I mean, I've had to do that with a lot of people.
That's not the way, bro. That's not the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I think
plays it heavy into youth, because you don't reason, you don't even think about your surroundings. Everything is based on reaction and not actually going ahead and deducing what's actually taking place. I'm at my place of work right now. This could cost me my job. Who knows if I can actually get, like most people live, like 40% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So how are you, you not even thinking about the ramifications of possibly losing your job and maybe your place where you live or having some lights or bills cut off, all because somebody wanted to act a fool, act the ass. They end up winning in that whole situation.
Yeah.
But going back to what that plays into it, like hot-headedness of youth, because you're around young people, you don't generally hear about much older rappers ending up in the situation that these younger MCs end up. And it's also about, unfortunately, it's about authenticity. Like people demand authenticity from these rappers, so they still find themselves in the hoods that they grew up in.
Yeah.
And the hood don't love nobody. I don't care how popping you is in the hood, or the hood don't love nobody. The hood is not nobody's friend. So when you go back to these neighborhoods, envy is heavy in these neighborhoods. Jealousy heavy in these neighborhoods. And is you really about the life that you say you is? Everybody's gonna want to test you about that life if you're in their hood, because it don't matter to them, and they're not even thinking about, oh, I can spend the rest of my life in prison about taking this person's life. I'm just gonna see if he really about that action. And like that's one of this is funny because goes back to OG Vern in Columbus, and I had a homie, unfortunately, Ness Words, who passed away up in Columbus. He was talking to OG Vern. He's relatively around my age. I think he might have been 37. At the time, he probably was like 32. And he walked up to OG Vern. He's 18. We played a show, and he listened to him play this set, and the set was great. And he was like, "Hey, man, the music is great." He's like, "The vibe is incredible." He's like, "But I need to know, is you really about this life that you talk about in these songs? Because eventually somebody's going to pull your card on this, because that's just how the nature of the music that you make." So if the nature of the music that we love is so violent, is you really about that life? I'll pull your card. I'm here to test you. I'm never lacking, then people are really going to see, are you really about these things? Because they feel like, I really live this life and you shouldn't get a pass on this life if you really say you about that action. So I think that also contributes to a lot of the ways that we lose these younger artists, is because they find themselves, wisdom doesn't come into play. They think that it's okay for me to be in this environment. It's okay for me to be shooting dice here. It's okay for me to come back to the hood and go to the corner store without any security or anything like that. Like, I'm loved here, but the hood don't love nobody, and that's unfortunately what we've learned that time and time again. Bullets really ain't got no names, and they don't care how big your name is either. So.
Didn't Dr. Dre say in the Rhyme and Reason documentary, anybody can talk about killing somebody on a record? That don't mean they're gonna go out and do it. So have we lost that part of the wisdom? You know, when we're thinking about life imitating art or art imitating life, that this is just music, and they're actually trying to pass legislation right now because there's 2 rappers that are on trial in California for murder, and they're actually using their rap lyrics against them. And so they're trying to get this bill passed that if you commit a crime or you end up, you know, doing something criminal and you are an artist, anything you've ever said on a record can be used against you in court. And I'm like, that is really foul. And of course, there's people that are fighting against, you know, such legislation, because again, I can talk about, you know, being in the streets or being about this life, but I don't have any reference for that. I grew up, you know, in the hood, but my hood ain't nothing like the hoods that these, you know, people are growing up in now. So I just, you know, it's just a pretty wild, I guess, state of mind and state of hip hop. No other music genre gets put on trial the way hip hop gets put on trial. And that's really foul.
No other art form. It would be absurd to hear about like Scorsese getting arrested, and then we're using the Godfather films to prove that he runs a criminal enterprise or something. You know what I mean? Nobody would be like, what the hell? So it's absurd. And they've been doing it for a long time. They did that to Sibo. I remember when I was like 17, they used Sibo's lyrics against him. I think it was in Cincinnati actually. He had got caught in Cincinnati with something. He had something in the car. And they used the lyrics, you know, from his songs to try to convict him, or they attempted to. It's absurd. It's, you know, it's and it's like a push and a pull, because then you said, you know, I think it's stupid that a court could do that, but also then everybody is trying to be the realest rapper or the most, you know what I mean? People feel like if I said I do this, I got to do it, you know what I mean? And so it's like it's a big catch-22. I think we also have to take into consideration that, you know, I'm 39 years old. America has been at war my whole life. You know what I mean? America has been fighting violently with someone else my whole entire life. So these kids, it's not just, you know, we can't just say it's the music or the movies or the what, you know what I mean, or the neighborhood that they're in. It's just in our DNA. America is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, and if you see the country that you're in is always killing someone, you know what I mean, then it becomes normal to you. It's normalized, you know what I mean? It's shit, everybody's doing it. So yeah, it's a societal problem, and it's not just limited to this one culture, you know.
Yeah, we got a hyper desensitivity to violent acts and in general, just because we see it perpetually on streams, on social media, all the time. Like the things that should be like disheartening or gross, you can almost get numb to it, because it's like there'll be another one tomorrow. Like, and you can't really pour yourself into being devastated every time that you see these kind of acts happen. But that also helps to desensitize people to the act of it as well. It's like, oh, well, you know, I witnessed. If you live in an area of high violence and high crime, and you witness, you're accustomed to it. It becomes, it's like it's second nature, unfortunately. And I think a lot of it goes, like you said, we you don't like Officer Ricky. I know you're not a fan of Officer Ricky, And it's like Officer Ricky, he made a persona up, and we were like, "Oh, you fake because you don't really live this life, Officer Ricky." But then at the same time, when people live this life, it also puts them in a harrowing position, because like when you live this life and you say you on these blocks, then people know where to find you. And unfortunately, like thing happened with Pop Smoke, they found out where he was staying, and they went there and they unfortunately took his life because they found out where he was. They figured that's an easy lick, that's an easy come up. That'll happen if you're a rapper who people feel like they can come up off your chain or come up off of the notoriety of saying they was the ones who rubbed you out, and that is unfortunate. But that's and especially if you're a rival gang member or something like that, then that is being authentic. Some will put you in a place where the probability of these things happening to you exponentially are skyrocketed. The chances of it are through the roof now, because you are a person that people want to get at. Like, as much as you, the way that you love Homeboy Sandman, there's somebody who detests a rapper from a rival gang in that same way. So if they got a chance, they might not even know the guy, never know nothing about him. All they know is from the songs that he is claiming this set, and he says he's in this neighborhood, and that means that they hate him with all of their heart, and they want to treat him in the same way, that the same manner of friendliness is the opposite way that they want to treat that rapper if they ever got sight on him. That's what On Sight is about.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So with that thought, though, you guys are all artists. I'm sure you guys have all made songs where you've talked about something that you didn't necessarily live. Is that something that maybe like rappers shouldn't do? Like, if you don't live this life, maybe you shouldn't talk about it. But does that infringe on like your freedom of expression or your freedom of speech in some ways? And then if we take that and say, well, if you don't live this life, don't rap about it, then what do you rap about?
Well, I think that definitely infringes on freedom of speech and freedom of creativity. I don't think you could do anything about it. The only thing that I would like to see is a more balance of stuff that's out there. I think that to me is pretty much the only thing you could really do, because you can't. How are you going to police that? I mean, there was a movement where everybody was saying you got to keep it real, but then that money came in and it's, no, I don't got to keep it anything but paid. So I mean, there's I don't think there's anything. Only thing that I would like to see is just a balance of what's out there. Like Tino said, it's not that he's trying to stay relevant. He just wants to have something that's good for an option for people. And that's what I would like to is for that the options, because there are options out there, but I would like those options to be edified. And I think, like I said before, it's up our job as fans, not as artists, but as fans, to edify those ones. So I'm gonna jump into the self-care assignment on that note. So the self-care assignment for this week is going to be share music with someone from a different generation than yourself. Without criticism, just say, yo, check this out, and swap. Give me something to check out. So that's going to be the self-care assignment for this week. And before we get out of here, we got brain science this week. Did you do brain science for this week?
No, I mean,
that's cool.
We kind of talked about it, but
yeah, that's cool. So yeah, no brain science. Okay, you got to
embrace your age.
Yeah, embrace your age. That's because it's embrace your age. There we go. That's your study is to study ageism. There you go, and you learn the science on it.
And embrace other ages too.
Yeah, word up. Yeah, word up. And I think if you do some study on ageism, it will help you to do that. Tino, tell the people where the people get out with you and tell them about that record, where it's going to be at.
You can find me on itstino.com, itstino.com. That'll get you to all my social. That'll get you to my Bandcamp. Currently, the album is selling on Bandcamp under the Stereo Funk. That's STEREOPHONK, Stereo Funk. It's out. You can pre-order. Well, it's not pre-ordering. We actually shipping it now, so you can get the uh, Lapai Bavarde. Look, I'm like I said, the French is not the best, but
Bonjour.
it means the talkative. It means the talkative magpie, and the reason we went with that was just because magpies are one of the few birds that, as a rapper, rappers love shiny things. Magpies are known to have loved shiny things. It's a misnomer, but they supposedly love shiny things. And
Oh,
then they're
that's the
also one
birds
of
that be stealing the jewels, the
still in the jewels, the
buttons and
shiny things. Yep,
buttons and stuff. Yeah.
yep. So it was very, and I was like, what's, and then they are also one of the few birds that are smart enough to, or few animals that are smart enough to recognize itself in a mirror. So it was like, okay, they're clever and they love shiny things. They're perfect representation of rappers because like wordplay and jewelry that like is like the epitome of being a rapper. So we went with the talkative magpie. Also, they're songbirds. Magpies are songbirds. So,
That's dope.
so that is that's where you can find me. It's Tino.com, and I if you hit any of those links, it'll direct you to where to get the album if you want to pick up the vinyl.
Or Cooley, tell them how the people can get with you.
So I DJ. My next set is November 30th at Toxic Brew. We do a thing called Hot Funk on the last Wednesday of every month, where I spin a mixture of hip hop and funk and try to demonstrate how they intersect in many ways. So come check me out there. Also, first Friday of the month, Funky Friday at Barrel House. I'll be there. And I got a radio segment that's about to start airing on WYSO. It's called Homegrown Hip Hop. We just interviewed Pickett and Lady Bounce. I got to get Tino on there too for sure. But it's me and my partner, the Gemini. We try to shed light on just Ohio hip hop. You know, and it doesn't have to just be MCing. It could be DJs. It could be b-boys. Promote. You know, we're trying to use that opportunity to just show how dope Ohio is in general when it comes to this hip hop thing. So that'll be airing during 3J the DJ's Tuesday night show. He's on from 8 to 11, and he gave us a slice of the pie to spotlight Ohio hip hop. So you can check me out on there as well, WYSO. And then just CooleyTheCurator.com, Cooley the Curator on Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff.
Well, that's our show for this week. Thank everybody that's been rocking with us doing this Hip Hop History Month series. You can find us wherever you find your favorite podcasts, on YouTube, Facebook, and remember to share those daily self-care assignments. It may help somebody out. We should give you a self-care assignment every day that's for no cost to just, give yourself that spotlight on yourself that you may need. It's all about self-care. Lady Bounce. Take them out. Let's wrap it up. What you got to end it with?
So you can find me on social media under the Fly With Us podcast on Instagram and Twitter. I do have a personal Facebook page, and you can kind of find me. If you find our Fly With Us page, you'll find me there. You can also catch me the third Friday of every month for Phenom Friday at Barrel House from 8 to midnight, playing all your favorite songs that you didn't know you wanted to hear. And with that, I'm Lady Bounce.
It's your boy Picket Fence. Oh, I guess I should say, I got a record coming out. I got a record coming out soon here. Yeah, I got a record coming out soon here.
I forgot you're a rapper guy.
Yeah, I rap on occasion. About to go work on an album right now. So, be on the lookout for that. You can find me on Facebook under Picket Fence or Fly With Us Podcast. And, just stay tuned to that album. We got a lot of music coming your way real soon. So, it's your boy Picket Fence. And we out. Peace. Or Tino.
Yes, sir.
She got going.